guys, so I have some really exciting news. I finally got my copy of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling, John Tiffany, and Jack Thorne. I am so excited to finally have this in my hand. I have been waiting for so long, so I'm just gonna fangirl out here for just a quick moment. Let's talk about this cover. It's very different than the original Harry Potter books, but you know what? I love it. It is so beautiful. I don't think, does it use the same font? Looks like, no, it does not use the same font for the lettering, but that's okay because I mean, this is still such a gorgeous cover. It's got texture on the dust jacket and it's so beautiful. What's it look like on the inside? Okay, so it's just black and yellow. This is actually pretty gorgeous. I love the fact that it kind of shimmers. Anyways, this is a new 8th book of the Harry Potter series. I really don't know much about the plot of this book, only that we're following Harry's son 19 years later. I kind of just kept myself away from any sort of Harry Potter media because I really didn't want to be spoiled. But I thought it would be so much fun to do a vlogging of my progress as I'm reading this book, just because Harry Potter is my favorite series, and I thought it would be really fun to be able to film how I feel, you know, a third of the way through, half of the way through, 3/4 of the way through. Now, I do know going into this that it's not a book, it's not a novel, even though, I mean, it looks like a book, but it's a play. So it's obviously going to be structured differently. I assume it's going to be heavy on dialogue. Plays usually read a little bit quicker than actual novels because it's not so wordy in description. It's just, like I said, a lot of dialogue. All right, so I'm really excited to get started. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm gonna get to reading and I will be back in a little bit for an update. So I have been reading for not too long. I'm about 40 pages in and I just got to Act 1, Scene 7. I know that's not very far, but I kind of just wanted to give you my initial thoughts so far. Pretty much exactly like I said. Oh, there goes my notes. It's very full of dialogue. It moves very quickly. I feel like we're just jumping scenes from scene to scene, which makes sense because, you know, in a play, you're changing scenes on stage. I also noticed that I'm having trouble getting over the fact that it's not at all like the original 7 Harry Potter books. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's just, it's different. This isn't solely by J.K. Rowling, so of course there's going to be a lot more different, like there's going to be different voices and style of writing because there are 2 other authors that are also collaborating on this play. When I see scenes with like Harry, Hermione, and Ron, they just don't seem like themselves. There are scenes where like Harry and Hermione are conversing and it doesn't sound like a typical conversation they would have. I'm like, that's not really something Harry would say, or that's not really something Hermione would say. I am really loving the plot so far. There is an interesting semi-twist, I guess, at the beginning. We're introduced to a new character. I'm not going to say who. Definitely added some intensity to the story, and I was kind of shocked. Like, it just kind of like hit the ground running with the story, which is great. We're also seeing old characters getting, you know, reintroduced to old characters, which I love. We are following Harry's son, Albus, and oh my gosh, to be quite honest, right now I don't know how I feel about him. He is so bratty. He is so bratty. He talks back. He's just, I'm having trouble connecting with him, but 40 pages in, we've got a lot to go. Characters aside, the plot, I love it. It's so great. I love how it's going, and I love being back in the Harry Potter world and being back at Hogwarts and on the Hogwarts Express. It's so fun, and it really just reminds me of my childhood when I would read Harry Potter. Alright, so that's it for my quick initial thoughts. I'm gonna try to get some more reading done tonight and then give you another update in a little bit. Hey guys, so it is now day 2 of reading Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I am about, I would say maybe a third of the way through. I have finished all of Act 1. I'm now in Act 2 and I have gotten a few scenes in. Things are definitely getting crazy. I am really liking where the story is going. I'm really enjoying it. We're seeing a lot more Harry, Hermione, like Ron interactions, which is great. I was afraid that they were going to be placed a little bit more on the side and we weren't going to see much of them in this story, but that's actually not the case. We are seeing a good amount of them, which I love. I am still not connecting with the characters like Harry's son. I can't. He is such a brat, and I'm really hoping that's gonna change. The mischief that Harry, Ron, and Hermione got into was to save the world, as cliche as that sounds, but it was to defeat Voldemort. They thought they were doing good. They thought they were doing what was right. One of the greatest things about Harry, he does the right thing. He doesn't really think about himself. He thinks about others. The mischief that his son is getting into, he's doing it for attention. So I'm curious to see where that's gonna go. He's definitely getting himself into quite a situation. It's getting intense, and I am liking it. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish Act 2, and then I will be back for more update on my thoughts and how I'm liking the book so far. Okay, so I am about halfway through the book now, and I just finished part 1, Act 2. So now I'm starting part 2, Act 3. Things are crazy. I'm liking Albus a lot more than how I liked him before. Now I feel like his motivation is coming a little bit more clear. I feel like I'm able to connect with this character a little bit more. The plot, it's not at all where I thought things would go, and things are crazy. I will say this, Albus has guts. I mean, Harry Potter had guts, and some of the things he did I thought was, insane. But the things that Albus is thinking of doing, it's like on a new level. It's borderline crazy and definitely dangerous, but crazy and stupid. We are introduced to even more characters from the original stories, which I love. I'm really excited to see where Act 3 is gonna go, because oh my gosh, it's intense. Okay, so I have a fourth left of the book. I just finished Act 3, and things are definitely crazy. I will say that there is a twist in the plot, and to be quite honest, I kind of found it coming. I do like where the plot is going, and I do like the plot twist, but it was a little predictable. I will say, after finishing Act 3, I do like Albus Potter a little bit more. He's kind of starting to understand like the severity of his actions, and he's starting to understand more about what his father actually went through. Like, to him, he's just heard story about, the famous Harry Potter, the boy who lived. Now he's actually starting to understand, the true horrors that Harry went through. I can see a little bit more of the true characters coming out from the original story. Not as much though. It still seems like they're just not really themselves. I like the idea of the story. I'm having trouble finding it to be a little realistic, and I know that sounds stupid because Harry Potter obviously is not at all realistic whatsoever. There's magic and make-believe creatures, but I'm having trouble finding this realistic within the Harry Potter world. It just seems a little too far-fetched, but we'll see. I do want to point out that and emphasize that I am really loving it. I really am. Compared to the Harry Potter series, right now it's kind of lacking. It's not Harry Potter. It is, but it's not. If that makes any sense. Okay, so enough rambling. I'm gonna go finish the remainder of this book, and I will be back to share my final thoughts. Okay, so I have finally finished Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and I have mixed feelings. I'm I'm of two minds. I liked Act 4. I have to say, I think my favorite act is Act 3. But Act 4 went by very quickly. Things kind of wrapped up really quickly. I thought maybe it could have been a little bit longer. We would have had not as quick of a resolution, but I know it is a play, so things have to go a lot quicker. That's definitely understandable. Also, Albus starts to grow on. The way I felt about him at the beginning of the book is not how I feel about him now, which is good. Okay, the part where I'm of two minds. Part of me really wants to give this book a really good rating because it's Harry Potter and I feel like I should. But the other part of me thinks that it could have been better. There are definitely flaws, but it's still good. I still recommend it. I mean, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you definitely should read it. The plot itself, I really like. Even though some parts I felt it wasn't very plausible or realistic, even though I mentioned before, it's the Harry Potter world. It's hard for it to be realistic. But they're, realistic within the Harry Potter world. I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense in my head. So I am giving this book, I think, a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Just kind of a little bit more than what an average rating would be. My biggest complaints kind of initially after finishing it is that it doesn't have that Harry Potter feel, which is understandable because J.K. Rowling didn't write this book. It was John Tiffany and Jack Thorne who actually did the writing, and it was more of J.K. Rowling's ideas, which is probably why the plot is pretty great and the twists are really great because it's J.K. Rowling's ideas. So, of course, her twists and her stories are fantastic. So that part I don't really have any complaints of. And I think maybe if it had been fleshed out a little bit more, the parts that I didn't feel were as plausible could have made a little bit more sense. I can't say this enough. If you are a Harry Potter fan, I do recommend you picking it up. Just remember, you're going into this book knowing it's a play. It's going to be structured different. The pacing is different. It's very different. And I keep saying book. It's a screenplay. It's not a book. It's a screenplay. I really hope that you pick it up and read it and let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are. I will have a full review coming up in the next few days, so just stay tuned for that.